Okay, let's give you guys some practice. So find the limit of each of these. So press pause and have a go. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So for the first one, times top and bottom by the conjugate of the numerator. So look at the numerator, times top and bottom by the conjugate of the numerator, which will be exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the minus and a plus. So times top and bottom by the conjugate. So when you get this times this, it becomes very simple. It becomes something very simple. It will become this, and then this thing times this thing will then become this. So now notice that this is exactly the same as this. So visualize this fraction as being one fraction multiplying it with this fraction here, which is this one here. So this is like the number 1. So 1 times anything is that anything. So that will then give you this. So now you can put 1 into here, and then the whole thing will then become a half. So your final answer is a half. Okay. So for number two. Well, the first thing you should do is put a 5 in there to see what happens. When you put 5 into here, the numerator will then become 0. When you put 5 into here, square root of 9 will be 3, take away 3. You're going to get 0 over 0. When it's 0 over 0, you can't determine anything. Sometimes the limit exists, sometimes it's DNE, sometimes it's blah blah blah. When it's 0 over 0, you just can't determine anything. So you've got to do something cunning. So in this case, the cunning thing that you should do is multiply top and bottom by the conjugate of the numerator. So times top and bottom by the conjugate of the numerator. So now, hang on, so now when you get this thing times this thing, it will then become this. Because this times this will then give you x plus 4, and then 3 times, negative 3 times positive 3, it will be 9. So the numerator will then become this. The denominator, just leave it as this thing times the conjugate. And now when you merge these two single numbers together, it will give you a negative 5, which turns out to be the same as this thing here. So when you merge the 4 and the negative 9, it will become negative 5, and then you can see that this thing is exactly the same as this thing. So these two in a way they will cancel each other out, giving you this. And now when you put 5 into here, nothing breaks down, because this thing here would be 9, square root of 9 will be 3, 3 plus 3 would be 6. You see, nothing breaks down. You're not dividing by 0, so everything works. So basically the limit is 1 over 6. Okay, so for the next one, same idea. Times top and bottom. For this one, let's just times top and bottom by the conjugate of the denominator. So the denominator, the conjugate would be this and this. So now when you get this times this, it will become something very simple. It will become this, which turns out to be x later on. But for the numerator, leave it as this thing times this thing. Just leave it as that for the time being. So now that will then take you to here. These two, they cancel each other out, giving you this thing here. So now the next step is to notice that you can simplify this by multiplying the fraction top and bottom by the conjugate of this thing here. So conjugate would be this and this. So now hang on. Now when if you look at the numerator, when you get this times this, because they're the conjugates of each other, it will become something very simple. It will just become this thing here. And let's leave this the same. So leave it as it is. And the denominator, it will be this x times this thing here. Times this thing here. So now now simplify, hang on, let me think. Now simplify this thing here. So so these two will cancel each other out. That will leave you with x. So these two will cancel each other out, leaving you with x. And then this x here will get cancelled out with this x down here. So so all that's left is this thing, which is this thing here, and then this bubble here is this bubble here. I hope you can see that. Let's start again here. These two cancel each other out, and then all that you're left with is this x here, which gets cancelled out with this x at the bottom. So this whole thing here will then become this. Now you can put 0 into here and nothing breaks down, because when you put 0 into the x, 25 plus 0 will be 25, square root it will be 5, plus 5 it will give you 10. Put 0 into this x here, the numerator will become 2. Simplify this. The limit is actually a fifth. Okay, so for the last one, whenever you're doing limits, always try and spot the difference of two squares. Easily square rootable. So at the back of your mind, visualize this straight away: plus and then minus 1. So always try and spot the difference of two squares. Well, when you're here, the trick to doing this is to times top and bottom by the conjugate of the numerator, which is this thing here. So now when you look at the numerator, this thing times this thing will become something very simple. It will become, well, 4 times 4, 16, and then this thing times this thing, it will become a negative this thing here. And then for the denominator, leave this as it is, and leave this as it is. So that will then take you to there, and then you can see that this is a single number, negative 15. So when you merge a 16 with a negative 15, you're just going to get the number 1. And then don't forget, this is minus x. And then difference of squares, so that will then become this and this. So notice that this thing here is very similar to this or this. Well, I want x. I want this x here to be positive. So I'm going to imagine the numerator as being the number negative 1 times this thing here, because I want it to be positive. At the moment, you can see that x is negative, because down here is positive, down here is positive. So when you're up here, I want this x to be positive. So I'm going to visualize it as negative 1 times this thing here, because negative 1 times x, that will then give you this. Negative 1 times negative 1, that will give you a positive 1. So I can visualize this thing here as being this times this. Okay, so now that the x is positive, this is also positive, and then you've got minus 1. So so this thing here will get cancelled out with this thing down here. So that will then give you negative 1, and then this thing. So now you can put 1 into here, and it doesn't really break down. This will be 2, and then put 1 into here. That would be square root of 16 would be 4. 4 plus 4 would be 8. So the denominator would be 16, and then you've got the negative 1 at the top. So the limit here is negative 1 over 16. Okay.